Good evening. How's everyone doing tonight? Welcome. Welcome to Anonymous Live 37. We are going to be taking calls for the next couple hours, listening to stories from people we do not know. That's what this place is. You guys should get the jig by now, but I don't know who here. I never know who here is a repeat viewer versus a new viewer, so I try to give a little rundown of what to expect every so often. This is a place where we just listen to stories from people. We have a 1-800 number here that anyone can call, and I don't know who's going to call. I don't know what they're going to talk about, and we just listen, and the chat will provide support and ideas and empathy, and I will provide some clean glasses here. My glasses are a little bit in need of a wipe down, so we'll give everybody a second to get in here while I clean my glasses. I should have done this minutes ago. Much better. There we go. Now I can see. Excellent. Okay. Welcome everybody. Always great to see a few people in here ready to go. You guys know the jig by now. We have this little number here. Ooh, looks like my water pitcher's creating a little glare. There we go. That's a little better. Okay. And everything's booting up now. We're just about to dive in. Hope you guys have had a fantastic week. I'm having a pretty good week. My kids and I are just running around like crazy this week. It's been a lot of fun. We're just, it's a grown-ass man trying to keep up with 3 sub-10-year-olds, if you can imagine. I do a pretty good job. I'm pretty spunky, so I like to think I can hang in there. Okay, we're going to dive right in. Lines are opening now. In fact, I saw a couple of calls come in that I wasn't able to get to because I was firing up some other things. I got to fire up everything at once. I can't just answer a call and not be ready, of course. All right, here we go. We're going to dive in with our first caller.
Yeah, everything at once. I can't just
Hi, thanks for calling.
call and not be ready, of course.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I am well. How are you tonight?
I've been better, man.
Understandable. What's going on?
Basically over the last couple of years, I've isolated myself to a lot of extent due to social anxiety and other things. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
I got you. I'm just listening.
Oh, my bad. So basically I've got like a couple people in my life, and they're all just walking over me and stuff. And plus I'm working 2 jobs and they both want to give me a promotion, and I'm trying to fucking figure this. Sorry, am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah, sure, whatever. This is your space.
Sorry. And so yeah, I'm just kind of feeling frustrated with a lot of stuff.
So you got some social anxiety, and you mentioned people in your life tend to walk over you.
Yeah.
So what else does that experience feel like? Is there anything else you want to weigh into there with us?
Well, it's like I have one friend, and it's like my best friend, right? And he's got issues, just like I've got issues, just not the same issues, you know? And he throws these tantrums, and he forgets that he cares about people and says things he doesn't mean. And it's hard, you know, when you are trying to reason with someone and they just are like ignoring all the things you say. Like, I know you're not mad at me, calm down, or not calm down, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So is this one friend in particular that you're talking about here,
Yeah,
or is this
it's just the one friend I had.
okay? So you had one true friendship, it sounds like, and even this person was pretty neglectful.
Yeah, and it's like that's the reason why I don't have friends, right? Because I decided people are only allowed to treat me certain ways. I like knowing your self-worth type of stuff. But it turns out nobody's perfect.
Indeed, no one's perfect. Uh, how old are you?
28.
You're 28, and you are calling because you feel like people tend to walk over you, and because you've got some social anxiety. Do you think those things could be linked? Do you think those things could be connected? Like, uh, are
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, most definitely.
how so?
Sorry, you were speaking.
Yeah, how so? How do you think they're linked?
Um, well, it's like because it's not just like social anxiety. It's like I deal with like ADHD and OCD and I guess PTSD and anxiety and insecurities and all that type of jazz. And it's like being distracted and then like obsessing over like little weird details and stuff. Uh, it's like I'm inundated with information constantly. You know.
Yeah. What do you feel the PTSD is from?
Um, childhood stuff. Like I'm doing my best at like incorporating it, but I'd rather not get into it too much.
Okay. I can guarantee you that you wouldn't say anything that would rattle anyone here. I also am not
No,
gonna. I'm not gonna pry. Of course, we'll give you complete anonymity here. You don't. In fact, don't give me your name or location. I'm not sure if you know the rules
right.
here, but no names, no
Yeah,
locations. We try to give people anonymity so that we can hear raw accounts of real stories, real experiences. So if there's ever been a place for you to uh, feel safe sharing about something, this would be it, because I don't know who you are. I won't. There's no way for me to know who you are, and nobody here listening knows who you are. You're just a voice, and we want to hear what your experience is like, so that we can glean from it, and also so that you might be able to get some sort of release after venting it and hearing from other people. Uh, and that's as close as I'll get to prying uh, into your story. If you don't want to go deeper, we don't have to. But I'm asking because I sense that the PTSD and I mean, it's not even what I'm sensing. I know PTSD can contribute to a lot of social anxiety, and I'm curious how that might play into your experience and what you've unpacked there
for
already.
sure. So I actually don't really have a problem talking about it. I just kind of assume that I'm bothering people by talking about myself.
No, that's what we're doing here.
Um,
Tell us.
so it's like um uh, I was raised in a Christian household, and if it gives you an idea of how Christian, there was a point where they couldn't make ends meet, and instead of my mother getting a job, my father got a second job, and so I just basically didn't see my father for 2 years. Um, and like my mother and father are still together, but my mother was kind of nutter butters, and my dad was kind of timid. And so a lot of that interaction was just like my mother being a tyrant, and then my father dishing out the punishments, and weird punishments. Like at one point, they made us build a little bathroom outside because we wouldn't clean the bathroom, and so I was showering outside in the middle of October,
My goodness.
with hose water. Um,
They made you
at
build a
one
bathroom?
time, oh sorry,
I'm just making
what
sure I
was that?
understood. They made you build a bathroom because you didn't clean the actual bathroom?
Yeah, because we wouldn't clean the bathroom or whatever.
Okay. Wow.
And and like one time, we had some fire-bellied toads. We had four of them, and one of them died, and I was afraid to come to them with it, and uh, it attracted ants in, and it killed two of the other toads, and then by then it was, a whole situation. Um, and so my mother made me go into um, Petco to give away the last toad with a sign around my neck that says "I kill toads." Um, and so like definitely humiliation and like degradation and all that kind of stuff was not abnormal. I think one of the things that stuck with me the most was um, I think it was about when I was like 16. My mother was trying to do the thing that she had done several times, where she was kicking me out of the house, and and she leaned in really close to me, and she was like, "No, don't," or something. Sorry, she yelled at me, "You don't need, I don't even want you gone." And then she said, "Because when you're not expecting it," and she leans in really close, "I'm going to kill you," and whispers it in my ear. And I'm like, that one stuck with me.
Your mom said she was going to kill you.
Yeah, that wasn't the only time.
Did you believe her at the time that she was going to kill you, or did you sense that it was some kind of fear tactic? Uh, what was that like?
I was a little bit old to actually believe it. It was just like really unsettling.
Right. My goodness. Yeah, so you got some PTSD from not knowing who to
Oh, and then
trust.
so then all of that on through the lens of being homeschooled through the third grade, since the third grade, right? So that was the only like social exposure I really had.
So your parents kind of controlled your social system
Yeah, I
because you were
didn't go on a
homeschooled,
date until I was 18.
right? So let's recap. You
hmm
led with saying that you feel social anxiety and you feel that people tend to walk all over you. And then uh, I pried gently into what was behind the PTSD that you mentioned, and you went into some background on the way you were raised and the way your mom treated you, and how your mom was uh, an overbearing mom, a domineering mom, which is uh, some people might not have a slot for that because a lot of people are raised with. The mom is like is supposed to be the nurturing. The nurturing. Both parents should be nurturing, but it's that estrogen, the motherly estrogen, if you will, that is the very nurturing thing. And you didn't seem to get that. And you said that the social anxiety and the PTSD were you mentioned a lot of this was linked for you, and then you went into some background on what you were raised in. And what I'm hearing is that you were raised in a really uh, unfair setting where you couldn't even trust your own parents because your mom was unpredictable and wild, and in some cases, in a lot of cases, if there's one parent that goes out of line or says something or does something that's kind of crazy, the other parent can be there to kind of reel it in or, be there for the child or, neutralize things. But it doesn't sound like you grew up in a household like that. It sounds like you grew up in a household where one parent could do whatever they want and the other parent would just stand idly by and just watch it happen and wouldn't do or say anything to correct it or to make it better. And so that's what I'm hearing.
It was like literally the Jerry and Beth dynamic from Rick and Morty.
Right.
Have you seen the show?
Oh yeah, I love that show. I'm not
So
up on it. I'm not up on it. You can give me spoilers. I'm not precious with TV shows, but I've seen some episodes and I really love that show. It's a great show.
But you go to the couples counseling retreat, right?
I haven't seen that one.
And there's basically there's a machine. It anthropomorphizes the individual's ideas of their significant other. So Jerry is Beth sees Jerry as this little slug, and Jerry sees Beth as this big old spider monster type deal.
Right.
And it's it was that
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good comedy for a reason. It's good comedy for a reason. It's not good comedy because it's random and crazy. It's good comedy for a good reason. It's commentary. It's good social commentary. And the point is that people do grow up in things like this. It's not common. A lot of people don't have a slot for what it's like to grow up with a mother, specifically a mother that is the opposite of nurturing. Most people get to grow up with some kind of a nurturing mother, even if they're
right?
Nobody's perfect. But what I'm hearing you say is that,
No, but it's just to kind of side tangent it a little bit. It's it's fucking frustrating. Mother's Day and rappers respect their mothers. If you disrespect your mother, but it's so ingrained in culture to respect your mother, and I'm I just don't feel that.
Right. Yeah, it's not normal. A lot of people can't relate to it. There's actually some questions going into the chat about this. Gay couples too. I guess that's pointed at me. Yeah, we could have a conversation about that, but this isn't about gay or straight. This is just about an abnormal situation the caller is experiencing where their mother was not, creating. Their mother wasn't able to be there for them. And that's what my point in what I'm trying to slowly get to here is that this is not. I'll put it this way. Let me ask you a question. How easy is it for you to talk to people about this, about the way your mom was?
It's relatively easy.
Relatively easy.
I mean, if it's somebody that I've decided that I'm trusting and I'm talking to in a significant way, it's relatively easy. And that's what makes it hard, right? Because I'm not at this stage where I'm oh, I just hate my mother.
Right, of course you don't hate your mom.
I have been at that stage, and I get in that phase,
Right.
But it's I'm trying to incorporate all these things into living a reasonable life, and the reason why it bothers me is because it prevents me from forming relationships in a normal type of way.
Right. And what kind of reaction do you get when you talk to people about the way you grew up? Are people surprised, or are they off-put?
It's no matter how nonchalant, it's they're always oh my God, I'm so sorry. And
right.
I'm it's an experience I had.
Right.
And I'm trying to do process.
Right. Yeah. So my point is that you grew up in something that is very abnormal. And I want to be delicate in saying that I sense you get that, of course, that, I mean, that's why you're calling in, you're processing this. And, you know, these are confusing things to unpack, especially if you're, if your whole social life is kind of caught up in it. If you're struggling to, oops, hey, I'm really sorry, stream. I've got to run and tend to something real quick. My caller, can you hang on for 30 seconds?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm coming right back. Sorry, guys, coming right back in 30 seconds. Okay. Wow, I step away
All
from
right.
the computer for 12 seconds and we gain viewers. How does that happen? Maybe I should have an AI host this show. All right, guys. Sorry for the delay. One of my kids woke up and I didn't have childcare tonight. My apologies. We're back. Hope. Sorry, caller. So my point was that you grew up in a really hard to relate to environment where your mother wasn't able to give you what a normal mother could give you.
So can I comment on that
Of course.
that phrasing?
Yeah.
That hit me when you said that a minute ago. Like it seems like maybe like something not even like you would think about, but like your mother wasn't able to give you, and it's like that's not a way you kind of tend to look at it from the inside. It's like
Right.
she made this choice and she made this choice and but like to really like sit there and try to embrace that perhaps she did do the best that she could is
Right.
hard as hell.
Right. Exactly.
I didn't plan on talking about my childhood. I really needed somebody to talk to, and then your notification popped up, so I called you.
Yeah. That's what we're here for. We never knew who we're going to talk to, what we're going to get into. That's kind of the beauty of it. And of course,
Oh, yeah.
none of us here can fix your problems, but we can listen, and some of us may have experience that's related or relevant that we can weigh in on. And, this isn't a place where we can fix your problems, but we can empathize and we can listen, and you might get some ideas for some steps you can take tomorrow that might be beneficial or productive. And
Right.
that's why we do this. But I'm trying to bring this full circle. I don't want to get too hung up on your mom. My point in zeroing in on the motherly figure is that it's an uncommon thing, and it's a strange thing to be able to understand, to have a mother who can't nurture you, and in fact does the opposite of nurturing, that shames you, that makes you walk into a pet store with a sign around your neck saying, "I kill lizards," or whatever it was, or "I kill frogs," or whatever you said the sign said. I mean, that's humiliation. You mentioned you have PTSD, and then you went into a little bit of why you think you have that, and the things you shared seem really poignant to my ear. It makes me completely unsurprised hearing that you don't that you're struggling with relationships, and that people that you get into relationships with, um, you mentioned people are walking over you, or however you put it, and the line I'm trying to draw here is that it seems like that's all you knew for a long time. It seems like that's all you knew was that you're going to do something, and if it's not acceptable behavior, then you're going to be embarrassed, or you're going to be walked all over, in other words. And when we're kids, we're tiny little sponges, and we soak up everything, and that's kind of,
Right.
it's our training,
Exactly. And like people ask me why I don't have kids, and it's because like I just want to make sure I'm not in a place where I'm going to do that to somebody, you know? Like you should treat kids like people.
Right. Do you have differences with your parents that you've tried to take up with them? Do your parents know you have had challenges developing as an adult due to the way that they raised
De-
you? Things like this.
Definitely. I'm sorry?
I was just saying things like this. Maybe not. I don't know what you're going to say, so I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to make a general point. I don't know how specific or non-specific I need to be. I'm just guessing here.
So, what was it? Had to have been like September of 2020. I was like having a little sit down with my two brothers and my father, and I was still living at the house, and so was my little brother. Um, and I don't remember what we were talking about, but things got real, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't love mom."
Mm.
And then we had the conversation or whatever, but it kind of clicked at that moment that like for where I am in my life, I need to hold the people who are responsible for making me the mess that I am. So I started holding a grudge, and I stopped communicating with my mom. I just kind of like went silent, and then that was a toxic environment, and they asked me to leave, or they told me I was going to leave. Um,
So you
so
went no contact with your
yeah.
parents while you were living at home?
What was that?
Are you saying that you went no contact with your parents while you were living at home?
Effectively, at least with my mother.
Wow. That is uh wow. That is
It's stupid.
balls.
Yes,
That's
I know.
I wouldn't say it's stupid. I'd say it's ballsy. You know, I would say it's ballsy. It's bold. It's intense. I mean, you're living with someone and you're going no contact. And so they forced you out of the house. Is that right?
Yeah, so I moved in with my girlfriend who had broken up with me twice and who I had trust issues with, but was getting it a third go because I still was chasing that feeling
Right.
of love that I had when we first got together, and that was not good.
How's your relationship with your mom now?
Well, mom is non-extant. Well, no, sorry, mother is extant. Relationship with mother is non-extant. um, just to clarify that. But it was no contact with my mother or my father, and lately I've been having conversations with my father. I'm at the point where I'm trying to move beyond the grudge phase, you know?
You're trying to move beyond the grudge phase.
Yeah. Like, okay, yes, this, but also I'm autonomous. I'm responsible for my own decisions, and I would like to have a family.
Right.
So
Well, you're doing a lot of the work. It sounds like your parents never did. Uh, it's uh, it's really inspiring hearing a lot of the stories that come into this one stream alone, because it gives me hope that there's a lot of people out there that are being raised in unsettling environments, environments where they get no closure, environments where they get no clarity on the value that these people have. Like some of these people grow up not knowing if they're valued by their parents and whatnot. One of the things where what's that?
Sorry. No. It kind of came full circle for something that I was dealing with today.
Right. Well, the only thing I was going to say is that a lot of these people calling in are in their 20s or 30s, and they have parents who are therefore boomers, baby boomers, and a lot of baby boomers just have this huge disdain for therapy, or they think it's a ripoff, or they think people just, they think therapists are just there to like bleed money, make people bleed money, and
Right.
just make people pay to talk about their feelings and things that don't ultimately matter. And the irony is that there's a lot of people who are healing from growing up in toxic environments. There's a lot of people in their 20s and 30s who are actually doing the work to heal from environments that were unhealthy and toxic. And the tragedy is that a lot of these parents probably won't get any better because for whatever reason, therapy has been made out to be a joke to them, and emotional healing is like this joke to them. And a lot of people in their 50s and 60s seem to think that your emotions just don't count. And there's some reasons there's some historical arguments we could get into on why that is with the way these different generations were raised. But
Yeah.
those points aside, the point is that there's a lot of people out there that are in their 20s and 30s. They're our age, and they're healing from these things, and they're doing the work to understand what they grew up in and how to keep their own kids out of that mess. It's not to say that anybody's going to be a perfect parent, of course. Nobody's perfectly balanced all the time, but it's one thing to acknowledge your faults and to say, look, like, I imagine that a lot of this would be cleared up for you if your parents would just own the mess they've made. If they would just say, look, we're not claiming to be the perfect parents. We know we messed X, Y, and Z up. I'm really sorry. I'm assuming you've never heard anything like that from your parents based on the story you've told.
I've heard it.
They have apologized?
I've confronted them head on like multiple occasions,
And they've apologized?
Yeah. It doesn't heal it,
They apologize for things
for being out of line and doing whatever I've confronted them on. They've like apologized and owned and like felt remorse and stuff, and then like the anger's still there, I still have problems with conversation and stuff. It's not like that just goes away. So you're right. Like I'm truly blessed and lucky to have abusers who at least will do that,
But it doesn't sound like anything has made a difference. It doesn't sound like I mean, you're calling in. I don't want to get too far off the rails. We've gone into your parents a bit, and you mentioned it was relevant, so I'm happy to keep talking about whatever you want, as long as you think it's relevant. But the main issue was the social anxiety, and it sounds like whatever apology or lack of apology you heard from your parents, it wasn't really. It doesn't sound like it really ever landed in a way that has healed the relationship. It doesn't seem like.
Well, it's like if you're thinking about your mental mind or your mental self as a body, right? You can break your legs. You can, and you'll never really walk the same way again, or
Right.
your spine or whatever you want to think about it, like, or whatever the injury is. And in the same way, you can break a person's personality.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm dealing with,
Yeah.
But should I let you get to another caller, man?
No, we're good. We're good. I'm trying to understand um, the social anxiety and how that's connected to your parents. I mean, to me, it seems like there's an obvious
So
link that your parents were. Um, there was some dysfunction in the house you were raised in. It doesn't sound like it was acknowledged fully, and then it sounds like when even when it was acknowledged, it wasn't really. Uh, it doesn't seem like things have fully healed, or that there's been any real change, substantive change uh, in the power dynamic. Uh, that to the extent that you are still feeling antisocial and that you feel people that you even the people that you do get close to, you mentioned that they tend to walk over you. And I'd like to, if you're okay, I'd like to kind of go back to that a little bit and try to figure out
yeah,
how
so
maybe these things are pulling on each other.
yeah, I'd like to hit on why I had a random burst of laughter. Um, so if I say the name of a fast food franchise, is that too much that I work at?
Um, is it
Okay, so I work at a restaurant.
okay?
Right, and on top of that, my main job has been a machinist. And so that's like a much more career-driven job you might want to think, but like um, I work kind of a weird shift. I work 3/12s from Friday to Sunday. And so it's kind of been draining and whatnot, and I never see my supervisor. So I don't really get that feedback of like, you're not fucking up. And I've called out a lot because of mental health stuff. And so I've been feeling like I was on thin ice for a long time. And I get this job at this other place where I'm serving customers and I'm getting like this immediate gratification. And they want to promote me. And so then I go to my career driven job and I'm like, hey, I, I, I need to talk to you versus my supervisor, who I haven't really talked to in like the 7 months that I've worked, or 8 months that I've worked there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And talking to him, I realized that I was almost ready to quit that job because I didn't get any feedback. He was like, you're doing amazing. Like, it's great. And when I talked to him about possibly cutting back my hours to do this fast food job, um, he was like, well, I would rather like incentivize you to stay here. And I did not getting that feedback and not getting somebody telling me that validation, like that was almost enough for me to make me quit my job.
Right.
Um, and so like I think that that's like an obvious tie into the anxiety, into like, well, at least the validation thing,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because yeah, you were saying like that's why I think that was the moment that I left. You were saying something about um you ever get that validation or something along those lines.
Yeah. The value. Your parents never told you what value you had or if you were valuable. Is that when you left?
And then in that yeah, and then and in the moment I was like, oh yeah, that was that too that I had when
I see.
I
I see. So the moment the job you were ready to quit told you you were valued, it made you second guess everything.
well, yeah, and obviously because like it's not just about how I feel about the job, it's about the money, and he was like ready to incentivize me to stay. So
I see. Yeah. So what is that? Why is it that you think, I mean, it makes sense on a number of levels, but it could mean anything. So I'm curious for your own experience, what does that mean that you were raised in an environment where your value wasn't made clear, you weren't
well,
communicated
it's
with,
like
and then now you find yourself here? What do we take away from that?
it was like all the like the uncertainty and walking on eggshells.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like you're asking, like, how do I handle it? Like, how do I overcome it?
Well, not necessarily. You might not know that. Maybe you don't know that. Maybe that takes time. Maybe you do know that. If you know that, then sure. I
Well,
mean,
no, because I mean, like, even like psychologists don't know all that much about the brain. I mean, not to down talk psychologists, just like it's a mystery to everybody
right.
in some way.
Oh yeah, the brain's controversial, for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I do believe we know a thing or two about the brain. Too much for coincidence, I'd say. And I'm not a psychologist, but just from books and stuff I've read, there's no way we could know the kinds of things that uh, humans report to know about the brain and have studied for it to be baloney or hearsay or chance. Uh, I do think we know a thing or two about the brain at this point, but of course, there's still a lot to be learned, and even within that, personal experience is a messy thing. So it doesn't matter how much anybody understands about the human brain. One person can have a really unique, hard to understand experience, and it can be really muddy, and it can be really tricky to navigate.
I have a
So,
question.
sure.
How do I know if I'm practicing stoicism or repression? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say Stoicism is more about, Stoicism is the art of uh, letting things be, and being okay with the chaos of the world and the things you can't control. I think of the Serenity Prayer when I think of Stoicism. Of course, it's a popular prayer within Stoicism, so it's not just my own spontaneity or creativity that I'm thinking of that. It's just like associated with it. The Serenity Prayer is what Stoicism is about. It's about, you know, being okay, learning to be okay with the chaos of the world, and learning to build up your own strength to deal with the things you can't control, and to control the things you can. And repression is the opposite of that. Repression is the exact polar opposite of that. Repression is, this is too heavy, this is too confusing, let's just sweep this under the rug. This will never get made sense of. Let's deal with this later or never. And Stoicism is the opposite. Stoicism is, look, like, this might not make sense. Let's try to understand. Let's try to learn and grow past it. And even if we can't understand, we can still grow past it. That's what I would say.
Okay. I felt like I was doing pretty good because I kind of realized that I was kind of unconsciously practicing stoicism in my life, which, just being okay with things. I was like, wait, isn't this a tenet of stoicism? And then the entire thing just crumbled around noon, and I wanted to kill myself. Not actually. No, I don't actually want to kill myself. I'm not suicidal. I don't want to give that idea. But, like, I have intrusive thoughts. That's why I say that.
Right. Offcore from the chat, one of our mods, has a great Stoicism quote. It says, "Ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again. Fail again. Fail better." That's Samuel Beckett. Great quote.
I like that.
Yeah. So repression is like, we can't deal with this. We're not strong enough for this. Let's just disregard this. Let's forget this ever happened. And Stoicism.
That's the intrusive thought, man. That's
Right.
the I want to kill myself thought.
Right.
Because I can't deal with this. I just don't want to feel this feeling anymore.
Right.
Right.
I love Stoicism. Stoicism has gotten me through many confusing seasons in life. I'm not like religious with it. I'm not religious with pretty much anything. But Stoicism is a thing that got me through a lot of difficult years that nothing else could get me through. Nothing else could seem to make sense of or And I'm not saying Stoicism made perfect sense of the actual granular troubles that I'm referring to, but that it gave me a mechanism to be okay and to say, you know
How
what,
so?
like Stoicism is a mechanism for the chaos in the world, for dealing with the
Well,
chaos in
what
the
was
world.
it about that was helpful? I mean, like, I'm just trying to like glean whatever like I can from your experience.
Well, what I personally gleaned from it was that people, people are not always going to do what we want. In fact, more often than not, people do the opposite of what we want, and or they do the opposite of what we want, or they do something that's confusing or unsettling. Maybe it's not to harm us, but people act in chaotic ways. Suffice to say, the world is full of chaos. Suffice to say, the world's a very big place. Suffice to say, so Stoicism is a philosophical response to the chaos of the world, where you acknowledge how much bigger the universe is than yourself, and you acknowledge that the universe is much more complex than just your single self, and therefore chaotic things are bound to happen to you, around you, uh, even for you. Chaotic things will happen in uh, to your benefit at times, and maybe to somebody else's detriment. But the
Right.
point is that the world is full of chaos, and
But how do you deal with that? I mean, like, aside from like the obvious, like there are instances of chaos that you can't really um, alleviate or like make better in any way through like communication or whatever. For instance, like a car crash. Like, there's nothing that you could have like said that would have gotten that to not happen. Um,
right.
but then I feel like the chaos of like human interaction is an entirely like another beast.
Yeah, I'm not sure I follow your
Is that off
point,
base?
but no, it's not off base. I see your point, but I'm not sure I connect it to what we're talking about. Maybe you can help me connect it to what we're talking about.
Um,
For sure, humans are very chaotic.
okay. I I think I'm trying to like ask for advice through this lens of like I find the chaos most overwhelming in a social setting. Do you think that a different style of communicating, over communicating, more precise communicating can help qualm the chaos of social interaction?
I see. Yeah,
Am I making that sense now?
I would say you're putting me on the spot, but in the moment, in the heat of the moment, I would say, and I might revise this later if I get the question again and have more time to think on it. But right off the top of my feet, I'm thinking that uh, the only real tool humans have against social chaos in the world is empathy. So,
Empathy.
understanding that people are going to feel things that don't make sense to us and having empathy for that, and that people are going to be upset about things that don't make sense to us. People are going to experience all kinds of things and
Mhm.
therefore do all kinds of things because of the chaos of the universe, and these things will largely not make sense to us. So the only tool we have for dealing with that chaos is empathy. That is understanding that there is chaos, understanding that people are different, understanding that people will have different experiences, and understanding that we're not privy to the details of those experiences, and therefore all we can do is either have empathy or go to war. Because if somebody does something that doesn't make sense, we can have empathy and try to understand, or we can say, hey, you did XYZ. I'm not cool with that. Let's fight. And those are your options, basically. That's what I'd say.
Hmm. So that's like really interesting. Um, because that's the only thing that would give you really an upper hand in like a social interaction, right?
Right.
Is trying to put yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Right.
Um,
So yeah, I'd say empathy is the only thing we have, and it's a great tool. It's not that it's the only thing we have. It's the best. It's like it's beautiful that we have that. It's amazing that we can empathize with people, even if we don't fully understand. That we can go, and that's what stoicism is about. To kind of bring it back to close that story loop there. Stoicism. That's what stoicism is. It's going, look, I don't fully understand, but I'm cool. I can figure this out. We're cool. Everything's going to be okay. This is going to mean some things that we have to figure out, but that serenity prayer is it sums it all up better than I ever could. In fact, I'm feeling like, do you know the serenity prayer?
Is it the I think I've heard it. I think you referenced it. I think I recall it. But like, would you recite it for me if you know it?
Yeah. It says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so stoicism is all about not just being chill, or, a lot of people think stoicism is like, oh, this person just doesn't react to things, or this person is non-reactive or non-responsive, or just like really dull all the time. That's not what stoicism is. Stoicism is literally, the world is full of chaos. I can't control it. People I love are going to do things I don't understand, including my mother and my father. And I can forgive these people, even if they've not asked for forgiveness. I can forgive them for myself. You do it for yourself. And you can use...
It's just the practice of peace, right?
What's that?
It's really just a practice of peace, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're just actively being peaceful.
Right.
Yeah, because, when the chaos really comes, that's a really useful skill to have when someone passes away or something. Like, obviously everybody is affected, but do you want to be swept away by the chaos, or do you want to,
That's right.
stay in the storm?
That's right. That's right.
But like, so I gave my buddy some advice. He was worried about this girl or whatever, and he's not a very touchy guy. He knew she was gonna hug her or whatever, and so like I kept giving, and there was some other stuff, but I kept giving him this like same kind of core piece of advice, which is that if you are afraid of something in a situation, the only thing you can do is face that and take control over it. You take physical contact or whatever, and then you take physical control of the situation and you maintain that physical space or whatever you're comfortable with. But if you just sit there passively, then if someone's huggy or whatever, they're gonna come and hug on you. And the same with kind of like the things he wanted to talk about that he was nervous about. And so, I don't know. That's kind of what was rattling around my brain when I asked that question.
Right. So let's try to land this, and we won't, again, like we won't be able to get to all the nitty-gritty details on a short stream tonight, of course, but to try to bring it back to the original point for your call, for those who are just joining, we're on a call with someone who is experiencing some severe social anxiety. They experience and suffer from OCD, PTSD, ADHD, and they had a uniquely abusive childhood experience from their parents, and we're trying to just listen to the caller's story and connect some dots between what they're experiencing now and what they experienced as a kid, and to just listen and empathize if anybody has any thoughts on where this may be going or can share from personal experience, this would be a great time to do that. I do sense we're kind of winding down here with the caller. And, to bring it back full circle, you mentioned that you feel, even in your best friendships, you feel walked all over. And I wonder if you've had any thoughts about that while we've been talking that might be relevant to share now about why that may be, or any extra clarity you can give us on what gets you into these kinds of situations where you're feeling walked all over. It does seem they're connected in some way.
Well, I'll start off with a piece of advice that my therapist gave me, which is that you shouldn't have relationships with people you want to fix. You should get that from your acquaintances. But damaged people do attract damaged people, And so he's definitely damaged, and the people that I tend to surround myself with are damaged. But I don't know. He do be getting like this, but it's just me learning that like everybody is not perfect, and it sucks, but you're allowed to stand up for yourself, but also have relationships with people that aren't perfect, I think.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think I'm a bad person for continuing my relationship with him, even though sometimes he gets verbally abusive, because I tell him I stand up for myself and I don't take that shit, And I know it sounds like we're an old married couple, but I've been alive for 3 decades. I've known him for 1, so that's like statistically significant.
Right.
But like, yeah. Stand up for yourself, but also don't set your expectations for people so crazy high. This is my thing I'm learning.
Right. Sounds like you might also be learning to spot red flags in relationships. Is that possible?
Definitely. That's like the third trifecta of why today was so shitty.
Right.
Because of like a coworker that I have feelings for.
I see.
Who just doesn't like communicate. But that's like, yeah. Love you, dude. Have a great night. I appreciate you. Keep it up.
Thanks. You too. I want to recommend a book to you before you go. Is that all right?
Okay.
I want to suggest, since you just answered positively to the question, you're learning to detect red flags. There's one book I want you to check out. It's called Psychopath Free. I don't know who in your life might be a psychopath. We all know someone, but you mentioned you're learning to detect red flags, and this is a great book on learning to do that. And it's been life-changing for myself, and also for it's been enlightening for some other people in the community here. So I'm going to put this Goodreads link for you in the chat, and I hope you check it out. It's by Jackson Mackenzie. Great book.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're an awesome human.
I appreciate it. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for sharing so vulnerably, and wishing you the best. Call again anytime.
All right, man.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay. Lines are opening. Beautiful conversation. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi, Julian.
Hi. What you want to talk about?
Hi. Just wanted to say thank you. I think that a lot of people have a lot of stuff that I think just going through the conversation with you can help with. But I just wanted to say thank you. All of your comedy sketches from years and years ago have really brought a lot of light into my life, and even just how they kind of touched on some dark topics, but kept it light. Was very, very cool, and I'm very thankful for all of those. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate your support.
That was really it. I've been
Toast. My friend, I toasted you. Not to be disrespectful, but we have a bunch of people calling in. I sensed that there was no substance to the call other than sharing appreciation. Of course, I do appreciate that. We're trying to get to callers here. Sorry, we're taking the next call. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hey, how are you doing?
I am well. Actually, can you bear with me 1 second? I forgot to play the toast sound.
Sure.
There it is. Okay. So call 2 was toast. I'm really sorry, caller. I toasted you. We had other people calling in. Thank you for your support. Caller 3, you're on the line. What do you want to talk about?
All right. So I guess I'm trying to understand how to deal with anxiety and grief from people who have passed away. So I grew up like in an abusive household where 2 of my drug addicted brothers would beat on me and my mom, and beating on their girlfriends in the room next door was like pretty much the norm. And it just got to the point where I became homestuck, where I felt like I had to stay home all the time to make sure my mom was okay. And now I'm like 24 years old, and I can't leave home for too long without feeling anxiety, despite the fact that these people are no longer alive. And I just guess I need to learn how to accept that the abuse is no longer there.
Right. So your parents have passed? Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, so I guess in chronological order, my oldest brother passed away from a heart attack. Then my mother passed away from a heart attack, and then my current oldest brother passed away from an overdose. And my dad's never been in my life, really. So I pretty much have no immediate family anymore. And I'm trying to come to terms with that.
Right.
And I've really never even talked about it to anybody.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I hate to do that. It's just
No. Yeah.
I've been to psychiatrists as a child. My mom, took me once, and I was just prescribed medication that made me feel like a zombie.
Right.
So now as an adult, I'm 24 years old, and now that I avoid it, but I'm seeing the way you've talked to people, and it's maybe just another set of eyes could assist me.
Well, you are the last one standing. You are
literally, yeah.
You are the your entire lineage, going back to the beginning of humanity, wherever your lineage connects with that, has culminated in you. And you are here.
Yeah.
And you are carrying the baton for your family now. And you're the champion. You're the one that is here championing your family name, and I would imagine at this point solely your own values. I don't know what how you were raised, or if it was a good environment, or if you feel you've had to build your own life. But even all that aside for now, no matter what, you are here, and you are the champion of your lineage, and this has all of this has culminated in you, and here you are, and that's a heavy load to carry, especially at the age of 24. That's got to feel like a lot.
Yeah, it is. And, sometimes, I'm not suicidal, like in the term of self-harm and stuff, but
Hmm.
sometimes I wonder, like, is there really a point if there's, like, nobody else immediate to me?
Right.
But like you said, I'm carrying the baton, and you know, the other side of my family constantly reminds me of that. They tell me they're so proud of me, so on and so forth. But it feels like people are just proud of me because I didn't end up being a drug addict like my brothers. You know, it's like, I don't know, it's conflicting. Like, what is there to be proud of?
What is there to be proud of? Well, tell me about uh, your family before you lost them. What was your childhood like? Was it were there?
Hmm.
I mean, most people, even if they have a horrible childhood, can find some silver linings in their childhood to sugarcoat things with. But I'm asking for like the real story. Like, what was your childhood like? What I'm trying to get a sense of what you're carrying here today, being the sole family member living,
Yeah.
and tell us what your impression of your parents was and your siblings were, and all that.
Hmm. So me, my mom, and my second oldest brother, we grew up in like a Section 8 housing in Ghetto City, New Jersey. My oldest brother, from the jump, so considering he was much older than me, all I've ever known him as was the crazy guy, the mental guy, because he took some hard drugs that gave him permanent schizophrenia,
Wow.
and growing up, my second oldest brother was like semi-normal, like clearly had some sort of bipolar anger issues. But the abuse started very young, like taking a bath. I can remember vividly and getting my head bashed into the faucet for no reason, stuff like that. Then there was like a point where my oldest brother was institutionalized. So we had I'd say like a year-long break where we were like semi-normal, where like the brother currently living in my house wasn't doing drugs. My mom's job was fine. She was a teacher. So we took like regular trips to the lake and stuff like that. And then as my brother that was living in my house started getting older, he started getting into drugs. And part two pretty much happened with the institutionalized brother, where the one living in my house now became the one that's also crazy. Now he's beating on my mom. He's stealing from my mom. He's beating on me. He's beating on his girlfriend, and that pretty much became the norm where he would try to attack my mom. And I'm 14 years old, and we're getting into fist fights. And then I'd go back in my room and like play video games and stay home all day because I wanted to make sure my mom's okay. I'm sorry for being all over the place, but you know, like the abuse pretty much overshines, like overtakes every normal aspect that anything I consider normal.
So your relationship with your family was complicated.
Very, just with mainly my two brothers, and there was a point where I was angry with my mother, um, just for her willing to deal with those two, like devils is what I would call them, refer to them as, but I understand that the mother's love for her son, like, cannot be explained.
Right.
So obviously she wouldn't give up on them, but sometimes I wonder, like, had she gave up on them, would she still be around today?
So
So pretty much my childhood revolved around, sorry to cut you off, but it
no.
revolved around her dealing with them. And despite me, like, as much as I tried to be a mama's boy, you know, and try to be a normal one, it just revolved around them too.
So it sounds like Do you think your relationship with your parents would have been better if it weren't for certain decisions your brother had made?
Yeah, the both of them. So they were both drug addicted, and they both became like mental, I guess. Or one of them had like, drug induced schizophrenia, and just like had she let them be on the streets and let them get fully institutionalized and go to a psychiatric hospital and this and that, that we probably could have had a normal life.
Is there some element of your story where you feel that if your brothers could have just done a little better, then maybe your mom would still be around? Is there some kind of feeling like that?
100%. I'm a firm believer that like stress kills people slowly, anxiety kills people slowly, so on and so forth. And I feel like had they not caused that on my mother, she wouldn't have had kidney failure. She wouldn't have had heart failure. She wouldn't have died at 53 years old. You know, she wouldn't have lost her job. She wouldn't have been forced to retire for her health issues. Um, like my second oldest brother joined the army. He got a little bit better. Then he came back home, you know, and became the abusive POS that he used to be. The drug use got even worse. So there was like a lot of ups and downs. And then, you know, as soon as we reached that peak of positivity, it just shot straight down again. And then, you know, when they passed away, I felt like it's just never gone back up, you know, the positivity.
Right.
So I guess I'm just trying to understand how to, like, I'm not seeking an apology from them,
Right.
but how do I move on with accepting what's happened, where I can comfortably make life decisions knowing I have nobody to fall back on, um, leaving home without anxiety, avoiding confrontation and fear of getting punched in the face for talking, you know, like, and then I try to rationalize with myself and I just say like, listen, the threat is no longer there, so what's the problem? But for some reason that problem just stays with me.
Right. What kinds of things?
And
Don't be modest here. Don't be coy. Don't be modest. What kinds of lessons do you feel you've learned in life that you wish your brothers had learned? And or in other words, can you tell us some things about yourself that you're proud of? Can you tell us some things that you're good at? Some things that come naturally to you, or some skills you have? Can you tell us anything like that that you're proud of? And don't be modest. You're anonymous here,
yeah,
so nobody's gonna take it like you're patting yourself on the back. Nobody knows who you are, or you know,
yeah,
I'm pulling this out of you. Tell us some things about yourself you're proud of.
something I would say I'm proud of is I'm not quick to act on my initial reaction to something. So if somebody says something to me a certain way, I'm not gonna respond instantly. I'm gonna process it. You know, it's like, you know, reading a text message in a tone that you're not expecting. Whereas, you know, my two brothers would hear something and they would react with a punch or with an insult or with a, you know, yeah, with an insult. So that's something that I think I've quote unquote mastered that I wish they would have, and that would have made life a lot better. Um, Another thing would be, I guess, loyalty or reliability. You know, I'm very loyal to my job, to my girlfriend. I consider myself reliable, and I felt like I could never rely on my brothers for anything. Like I've never had that big brother figure because I don't think big brothers would abused my brothers, but that's
Right.
what I dealt with.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, if I feel better just talking about it,
Good.
I've avoided, I said like avoided the psychiatrist because their response was medication.
Right.
And though, yeah, it's like, is there any other possible way?
Well, there's talk therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Talk therapy. A lot of people think psychiatry is the only kind of, maybe it's because it sounds a lot like psychology, psychiatry. They sound similar, but they're very different. A lot of talk therapists or psychologists, just, and you can just talk and not, and there's also a lot of talk therapists that are not psychologists. They're just counselors. But the point is that, yeah, I mean, there's certainly outlets for talk therapy without medication. Sounds like that might benefit you. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was probably wise, from what I'm hearing, that you've avoided the medication. When it sounds like what you've really needed is someone to talk to. You might still be able to benefit from a relationship like that. I want to ask you about your job.
Yeah.
Are you good at your job?
Mm-hmm.
Are you proud of the work you do?
I would consider it, I very quickly, came from, after my mom passed away, it was time to be a big boy and got a job. So I got an $8.50 an hour job at a car wash. I think I quit after 6 months and I got into another company I'm not going to name. And I very quickly became a manager over there, the youngest one. So I feel like my loyalty, like I said, that I wish my brothers would have had towards the family, paid off,
Right.
My job is kind of a high stress environment, but I like it because it keeps me busy. I don't have to think about my personal life. I'm sorry if I'm, dwelling off of your question.
No.
But I find my job as a source of therapy, if that makes sense.
Okay. So you got a job out of pressure from your mom, and you just went and got any job you could get, and then you ended up scoring a much better job in a much bigger company, it sounds like, and then you ended up working your way into a management position fairly quickly because of how effective you were at the work. And
Yes.
Man, it sounds like you have really rolled your sleeves up and done what has been expected of you, despite all of the setbacks and despite all the hardships you've endured. It sounds like you've really rolled your sleeves up and done the work, and that seems to be taking you in a good direction in life. You're only 24.
Yeah.
That's amazing. One of the first. Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to say I thank you for that, and that truly means a lot to me. I know I've grown up watching your videos, but hearing that from somebody, we're strangers to each other, so hearing that from you means a lot to me.
Right.
And sometimes I still wonder sometimes, what truly is the point. And the only time I wonder that is when I'm missing my mom,
Right.
It's like that kid in me wanting her applause and being able to, I can afford to buy nice things for my mom who doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And it just sucks. I have an amazing girlfriend of 3 years, and I've never even had this conversation with her, but she tends to wonder why I'm so emotionally reserved. But I feel like expressing your emotions can become unattractive to people. Right? And that's how we grew up.
Well, that's certainly not the case. That's what makes a relationship is finding someone that can not only take your emotions but understand your emotions or value your emotions. I would imagine that if you've not opened up to your girlfriend with your emotions yet, then that relationship has a lot more depth that could be discovered.
Yeah.
And, one of the first things you asked here was, what is there to be proud of? And so I hit you with some questions about your childhood and about the differences between your siblings and you, since it sounded like there was some polarity there. And I mean, I just got to say, it sounds like there's a lot to be proud of. It sounds like there's so much to be proud of for you. And I'm not saying that you're ignoring it. A lot of times we can be the most blind person there is to the value that we have as individuals. So you might not see it so clearly because of the way you grew up or, family dynamics or whatever. You might not see it, but I want to tell you, it sounds like there's a lot to be proud of. It sounds like you grew up in a lot of turmoil, in a lot of chaos. It sounds like you grew up in a lot of stress, and you've taken that and you've channeled all of that energy you had into being the most productive, most understanding, most empathetic, most diligent person you could be, that you could become. And I wonder if you've taken time to celebrate that. I wonder if you take time to love yourself for that work you've done, because you said it yourself here when I asked a couple questions. You mentioned about your brothers who couldn't seem to hold it together and got carried away by drugs and just made a bunch of decisions that were ultimately not good for them. And it sounds like you've been able to watch and learn from their mistakes. And it sounds like you've taken a lot of caution. It sounds like you've made a lot of good insights by watching your family. It sounds like you're trying to do the best you can. And look, your mom told you it was time to get a job. You went and got whatever job you could get. And you were like, nope, this isn't good enough. I'm going to go get a better job. Nope, this still isn't good enough. I'm going to get promoted to become a manager. I'm going to become a manager. And you're 24 years old, and you came from a lot of dysfunction. And so, to answer your question, what is there to be proud of? I would say a hell of a lot. And it's not a correction. I'm not trying to correct you. I just wonder if you're able to appreciate that about yourself and love yourself for that, and extend yourself some grace and some love for that. Is that something you know how to do?
Yeah, I can definitely, recognize those emotions and be proud of myself for those, and the fact that you were able to lay it out for me in the best way possible, because my mind is all over the place with this, so
Right.
I feel like there's a big weight off my shoulder. I called you with a lot of anxiety, scared to talk about this, but the way you laid it out, ultimately, I do feel, I am, I have an amazing life right now. I guess, the other day I just, miss my mom, and
Right.
learning to deal with some type of anxiety and emotional reservation I have, but and I like how you said that, like, our relationship, me and my girlfriend's relationship, may not be that deep if I haven't fully opened up to her yet. Um, I plan to spend probably the rest of my life with her. I would never think of abusing her or cheating on her because I grew up watching that.
Right.
So I feel like I should take the time to let her know why I'm so reserved and stuff like that. She does know, that my immediate family has passed away, but she doesn't know about my abusive upbringing and why I always flinch, when somebody, like, acts like they're gonna hit me, or when she playfully shoves me and stuff like that.
Mm.
So I think it's time for that, and I think I'm going to take talk therapy into extreme consideration.
Good. Yeah.
How would you recommend choosing a therapist for such a task, or choosing a therapist in general?
I'm going to put a link for you in the chat. Are you familiar with the website Psychology Today?
I am not.
Okay, I'm putting this in the chat for you. If you go to this website, you can put in your zip code and find talk therapists in your area. I'm pretty sure you can also find psychiatrists through this tool, just to be clear. I've never used it for that. I've never had a psychiatrist. I've only ever used counseling and psychology. So I've never been to a psychiatrist, is my point. But I'm pretty sure you can use it to find all the above, this tool I just sent you. But what I would recommend is use that tool, type in your zip code, read a bunch of bios of talk therapists. Make sure they're actual talk therapists and not psychiatrists. Make sure they're not going to just give you pills based on, a psychiatrist is just going to, their end goal is to give you pills no matter what. So it sounds like you don't want that. I would go in there, make sure you're looking at bios for counselors or talk therapists. And I would read like 5 to 8 bios that you like. Find 5 to 8 that you like, make note of them, and then email all of them and talk. Most of these people will give you a free 15-minute phone consultation on the phone. So call your favorite 5 or so, or however many you want. This is all for example. Call 5, spend 15 minutes on the phone with them, tell them exactly what you're going through, and ask them precisely what their plan would be to help you through this specific challenge, and then listen to their answers, and then pay the person whose answer you like the best. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. So despite there being so much to talk about, I just want to thank you for this platform, and I am just reading some of the messages in the chat, and it truly does feel like a safe place, and those messages are making my heart cry. I truly appreciate your recognition of my past and not judging me for it, and I feel like you've opened up a door for me to take that step into talk therapy. Yeah, thanks a lot, Julian.
Thank you for calling in tonight. I want you to consider going back through the chat and reading through the things people were saying during our call. There was a bunch of stuff that I wanted to get to that we didn't actually get to highlight, but there's a bunch of good thoughts in there.
Yeah.
They can't all be right, but I trust that when you go back and read it, you'll have an idea of what's applicable to you and what's not. And I hope you do go read it, because there was a bunch of good thoughts shared in the chat while we were talking.
I'll definitely read it, and thank you so much. I think I'm going to have the best sleep I've had with anxiety-free sleep. So
awesome.
Again, thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Of course, that's why we're here. Thanks for calling. Call back again anytime. Hoping to hear a good update. Take care.
I will for sure update you. Thanks.
Good night. Beautiful. All right, chat. Lines are opening again. We got about 30 minutes left tonight. Who knows what we're getting into? But we're going right now. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi, Julian. Thanks for answering. I prepared what I want to say, but I want to try to keep it as short as possible, because I feel so lucky that this is my 3rd time calling and getting through.
Wow.
So, yeah. There's a few things I want to talk about. One of them is a friendship that I kind of abruptly ended, and I'm thinking about my decision and trying to kind of go through that and figure out what's best, if I want to stick with that decision or change my mind. But then a little bit kind of separate from the first thing is I also want to talk about a little bit about my family, about specifically about my mom, and she, I guess specifically, well, I don't know how much I want to get into it yet, just because, yeah, I maybe want to talk about the first thing first. I don't know. But anyway, yeah.
Sure. We're all ears. Where do you want to start?
I guess I'll start with well, I thought I wanted to start with the friendship, but I just changed my mind now, and I'm going to start about my mom.
Okay.
She, she was, I guess she suffered from mental illness while we were growing up, and I know, I guess the last time I called, it might be helpful to kind of draw from that, because I did talk about my backstory a little bit, and so I'm trying to say something that can maybe help you remember the conversation, but the first thing that comes up to my mind is I don't want to bring that up because then I've shared this stream with my friends and they might be listening. So yeah, I don't want to say that. But
did we recommend any books? Were any books recommended while we were talking?
Well, I talked about how you recommended Atomic Habits to me before. And
Good book.
I'm also homeless, and I was getting help from a crisis management place. Kind of talking about that.
Okay.
I talked about and my sister and my but anyway, I'll just say my mom passed away in 2016.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that.
And yeah, thank you for saying that. I still haven't completely processed it in a healthy way or even I was about to say even in an unhealthy way, but no, I probably have processed this in an unhealthy way. But I've also kind of avoided processing it because it was not right, basically, what happened. And I still don't fully understand what happened to this day. But she, like I said, that she had mental illness. She had bipolar disorder when I was living with her, me and my siblings, and she was physically abusive at times, and it was just not the best living scenario, but also looking back on it, definitely not the worst. Like, I know that she cared about us and loved us, and I am completely in the mindset of that she did the best that she absolutely could. And I think that's another reason why I haven't really healthily processed her passing, because the reason for it's hard to say, but she passed away in a mental hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I also didn't find out until over a month after she had passed away. Like the people who they said that they were trying to contact me or any family members, but they had my phone number wrong by one digit. That was their reasoning. And I don't know, I tried to get some answers because at the time even when I found out after over a month, they did not have a cause of death. Like they would not tell us. And then the time, I can't remember the time frame of everything. This was years ago, but I remember going to, I think it's like a social services office to get her death certificate, and I saw the cause of death and it was listed as unknown. Like it was listed as unknown. And so in my mind, the hospital did something wrong, and they didn't care for my mother the way that they were supposed to, and it's it's really been hard to kind of like go through that too, because at the time when I found out, I called a lawyer's office and emailed them, or talked to them on the phone, let them know the situation, and that I wanted I wanted something to be done about this. And they emailed me asking for, some information, and I never emailed them back. And I didn't do what I should have done, I guess. I feel guilty for that. I feel like I could have, done something to maybe save someone else's life, if this hospital wasn't doing right. And I really don't think they were, because there were actually other instances with different individuals where it was like, I think it was, they were either being investigated or there was actually something that was proven where there was like wrongdoing in that hospital. But I never went forward with it, and so at this point I don't think I can anymore because of the statute of limitations thing.
Right.
I'm not honestly 100% sure, but I think it's 2 years. So I feel really guilty for that. And then also, I mentioned this last time I called, that I don't have a good relationship with my siblings. My sister doesn't want to talk to me, and she's avoided talking to me, actually since May 25th of this year, which that's when my mom passed away, May 25th. I don't know if that was significant for why she stopped talking to me, but yeah. So like I said, like I'm in the mindset of that my mom did the best that she could, and I remember saying that kind of stuff to my siblings, because we never really got a proper chance to like mourn her death, because we didn't go to we didn't have a funeral. She never had a funeral or a memorial. Like it was all kind of on me a little bit. Or I guess it should have been on my older brother too, but I'm the second oldest, and so I was kind of, at the time I was saying that I was going to take it into my hands, like, oh, I'm going to call this lawyer and get all this stuff done. And I was calling the hospital and speaking with people that spoke with my mom, asking them what they said to her and what she said back. And I have a journal somewhere about all those conversations that I wrote down from that, but I never did anything about it. And so I guess I'm just, I want to know a way to just, the best way to move forward. And I have a therapist that I'm fortunate to have. I haven't really had the chance to talk about this specifically because I'm kind of going through my own thing. I'm in my own crisis moment where I'm also struggling with my own mental health. And yeah, so there's there's that. Um, I don't know if you want to say anything about that before I kind of try to move forward or something.
Yeah, what would make this? There's a lot here. If I'm wondering if you can give us a theme for the call tonight, so that we can track with you through the details. There's a lot here, and I'm struggling to know what to retain from the call. I can't retain everything. There's a lot of detail here, and I don't want to miss something important. So, is there some kind of theme that you can clue us in on as we're listening that's relevant, or something that would make this a good call for you?
Yeah, I guess I sort of think that I'm kind of like I'm kind of like being like how my mom was. Like I'm turning into her. Like
Mm.
now I'm the one with mental health issues, and my family's not helping me. And when my mom was alive, like I tried to help her at one point, and I just couldn't focus on it. And she was homeless at the time when I was trying to help her, and I was living with someone else and in college, and I was just trying to help her with managing her finances because she had disability money. But I don't know, I just kind of gave up on that, and so I kind of feel like I'm like I don't really feel this way, but I guess like it sort of feels like I'm being punished for not helping her, and now I'm in the exact same situation. Like I'm homeless and I'm struggling with my mental health, and I also don't have family, and I have a few friends, but um, it still doesn't seem like enough for me. And then, like I mentioned in the beginning of the call, I kind of abruptly ended a friendship, and that friend was helping me a lot, and I just I don't know. I guess I can talk about that now. I don't want to take up too much time. Like I said,
Right.
fortunate enough to get through 3 times. But I guess about my friend, I he was helping me a lot with like getting around the places and just having someone kind of on my side a little bit. But there were some times that I thought he was like doing too much sometimes, or I just wasn't comfortable with how he was just I would just end up getting triggered and uncomfortable about how he was helping because I was very iffy on what kind of help I wanted to accept. And I told him up front, like, I just wanted things to be, um, I didn't want it to be like I was using him or just like taking advantage of his help. Like I wanted to keep track of all the things he was helping me with money, with driving me places, and that once I got my life together, I wanted to pay him back and reimburse him for his time even. And he was always like, "No, it's okay. This is fine." And I'm like, "No, it's not okay because I'm saying it's not okay." And I suffer from panic disorders. I have panic attacks a lot, and so whenever not every single time I was around him, but a lot of the times I was around him, I would get panic attacks. Like I would be triggered by something that he um, was doing, or maybe something he didn't do, because I would ask and I would try to clarify, like, hey, like, what are we doing? Where are we going? And his answer would be like, oh, I don't know. And I would start to get into like a panic mode, like, what do you mean you don't know? You're the one we're literally driving around right now. Like, what is the plan? And I would just get fearful for not really a valid reason, but not like for the situation, but it was a valid reason for me. And
Right.
I would try to let him know, like, hey, I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. And he would sort of kind of freak out himself and be like, what do you mean you don't know what's going on? Like, and stuff like that. And so I would just have panic attacks every so often when I was with him. And there was just one specific time where he showed up to help me again, and I was not really in the best of moods, and he kind of interrupted what I was saying. Well, first he like assumed that I was like perfectly okay. He didn't say perfectly, but he's like, "I'm glad you're okay," and I'm like, yeah, I'm okay, as in I'm alive and I'm standing here right now, but in my mind I don't feel good. And I was thinking that, and I didn't say that out loud. I was just thinking that. And then he just asked me if I wanted to go somewhere. And I was like, no, I don't. And I had like book bags with me. I put them down, and I was like, no, I don't want to do anything. I was like, I don't think that you're helping me. I think you should just leave. And he's like, I'm not going to leave. And I was like, that's fine. I'll leave. And I turned around and started walking away. And we were in a public place. And I kind of left my bags just out in the open, but at the time, I didn't care. But I walked away, and he was like, wait. And I was like, no, thank you, and tried to keep walking away. And I walked like so far, kept walking, and I got to like, it was like an outside area that we were in, and I got to a different area, and I was like, I'm just going to sit here and try to calm down. And I turn around, and I see him following me with all my bags, and I just snapped. Like, something snapped in me. I got so angry because I just wanted him to leave me alone. He wasn't getting it, and I just yelled at him. I kept yelling at him I told him to leave me alone. I told him to put my bags down. And then when he didn't listen, I told him that our friendship was over. And I just yelled that at him. I was like, our friendship is over. You're not helping me. Go away. Leave me alone. And he stayed there for like probably 30 minutes tops, because I ended up calling another friend and told them what was happening. And after about 30 minutes, he finally like left, and I guess he actually left. And then that was that. I haven't talked to him since, and
Why?
I have
What
to
made you
because
feel so triggered? Why would you? What made you walk away when he was offering to help? I'm just trying to understand.
when I wanted to walk away because I wasn't feeling good,
Right.
and I felt like I was going to say something mean or unnecessary, so I wanted to walk away, and um, I just wanted I just didn't want to be in that situation. And I don't know if that was unfair of me, but I just didn't. I don't really know what the trigger was in that moment, besides that he was kind of assuming that I was okay when I wasn't. I don't really like it when people assume incorrect things about me. I know
Right.
I don't have control over that,
Right.
but I just really don't like it when it happens. And usually I have the capacity to kind of, if somebody assumes something incorrect and I know that they care about me enough to get it right, I will take the time to correct them. And like, oh, yeah, I am okay, but I'm not really okay. But at the time, I didn't have the capacity to correct it. I felt so angry. And I think, honestly, I was so angry because I had just gotten off the phone earlier I was trying to call another crisis place, and they were telling me that they couldn't help me because I already called someone else and gave them my information. And I'm like, but they're not helping me yet. And they're like, oh no, since we gave them the information, um, they're going to, they're going to help you or something. So we can't help you. And I tried to ask her a question, and she didn't answer my question. She like uh, asked me a question instead. I was like, what does your company do to assist people? I'm just curious. And she goes, where are you right now? And I'm like, what? And so I told her where I was at, but I got really frustrated with that phone call. And then like 15 seconds later, I literally see my friend walking up towards me, and I knew that like I had gotten a missed call from him, so I knew that he was probably close by and in the area, but I didn't know he was gonna like come looking for me. So I think it was just all of it piled up, and I was just too frustrated in my mind, and I was tired. I was carrying my backpack, and I'd been walking around for a while, and it just seemed like it was going to be another moment where, because he asked me if I wanted to go somewhere, and I was like, no, I don't want to go somewhere because I don't, when I feel bad, it doesn't help me to immediately do something else unless it's like a decision that I make on my own or that actually sounds good. And it didn't sound good for me to go somewhere with him because I had been kept having panic attacks around him. And I'm like, no, I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm not going to go in this car with him where I'm probably going to have a panic attack, especially when I'm already feeling angry still. And so and then I said something unnecessary, I probably didn't have to say that, I don't want your help anymore. But I said that, and then I just walked away, and I think it upset me just greatly that he followed me because, I mean, we had had a conversation probably only a few days before that had actually happened where he was like, yeah, I have, he just opened up to me about something with his family, and then he's like, oh, if my family gets frustrated and they just walk away, like I always let them. Like I let people walk away. Like I have an open door policy. If people want to walk away from me, they can. And he told me that days ago. And then I'm literally calmly walking away from him and he wouldn't let me. He says, hey, wait. And I said, no, thank you. And then he still followed me. And then even after me yelling at him, telling him to put my bags down and to go away from me, he still wasn't listening. And I mean, I just have to be completely fair too, is that I wasn't really saying the best of things. And so he probably was a little bit concerned for my safety, and that's valid. But I I didn't feel safe around him, and I tried to make that clear to him.
Right.
And I wasn't at a place to make that. I wasn't at a place to say that in a calm way. And so that's basically it.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot there. I mean, you had a bad call with a crisis line, confusing call, and then your friend showed up and assumed some things about you that you didn't like, and then you had a confusing conversation with your friend, and uh, I'm doing my best to listen. I want to know what will make this a good call for you, because we are winding down the stream in a few minutes. There was a question from the chat earlier that I didn't get to while I was listening. This comes from Lazuli in the chat. They ask, is the caller feeling guilty or having regret, or more so feeling cursed? I thought that was a good question, and I'm also wondering that.
I I would say that I do feel guilty, and I feel regret. I don't feel cursed. I don't really. I mean, I guess I do believe in stuff like that, but I also kind of, if I am cursed, I'm not worried about it. Like, I really don't think I am, but if I am, I'm like, well, I just have to accept it, kind of thing. So I'm not necessarily worried about that, but I do feel guilty, especially about. I mean, I feel guilty about both of the things I talked about like my mom and then my friend. I feel guilty that I yelled at him, and like I could have just tried to have a and I can talk to him later, I know, but I don't know. I guess I don't even know how. I forgot that the stream ends soon, and I feel bad now.
No, don't feel bad.
Calling.
What would make this a good call? I mean, obviously we can't fix your problems, but if there's something you wanted to think through, we can do it for the next few minutes. And I can't promise we'll get to the bottom of anything, but I'd hate to hang up wondering what this was about. What would make this a good call?
Yeah. I guess just trying to navigate talking with my friend again. I know I have to talk to him just for the sole fact that he has some of my things. I don't know, and I know at the end of the day, like he was a good friend to me and he meant well, but because of what I'm currently going through, I just don't think I can be his friend, and I guess I just want a good way to tell him that, and just feel look,
I see.
Yeah,
like
a best way for him to understand, because I don't want him to be like, oh no, we can still be friends. I'm like, well, I don't think I can. Like, I'm not healthy enough to maintain a friendship where I'm constantly triggered. I can't do that right now.
Yeah, you might try some combination of words like you might start with some positive. I would start with a positive statement in this situation. You could say something like, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'll give you an example. Start positive, like, look, my friend, you have been more of a friend than anyone could ask for in my situation. And then list all the ways they've been there for you. You've held on to my things. You've checked in on me, whatever those things are. Name a few things so that the person knows that you value their contributions to the relationship and that you've taken note of the things they do in the relationship, the good things. Start with that. And then say, you've probably noticed I'm not in the best place mentally right now, and I'm trying to sort my stuff out, and I need time and space to figure out what that looks like. And then at that point, it would be a good time to apologize if you feel you owe them an apology for anything. You could apologize after listing the positive things about them and the relationship, apologizing if you feel that's justified or needed to set some things right and acknowledge that certain things didn't get handled the way that you wanted them to. And then say something about how you feel about the relationship. If you need time and space away from the relationship, drop it after the apology. Say, it has nothing to do with you as a person. It has everything to do with my own experience, and it might even make sense to mention things like, it's really hard for me right now with what I'm going through to hear someone say, I'm glad to see you're doing okay. Or to, it's really hard for me to feel like someone is assuming how I'm doing just by looking at me, because how I'm doing cannot be gauged by looking at me. And you want to be very careful at this point of the conversation not to make the person feel like you're accusing them of anything, because that person, people, when they're doing that, they're not trying to do anything wrong. 9 times out of 10, they're just trying to, it's like a positive shorthand, throwaway statement. People are like, oh, glad to see you're doing well. They don't even think about it. Most of the time, people don't even realize they're saying stuff like that. But if that's really what's bothering you, is those kinds of things, those kinds of comments in the relationship, after you apologize, after you mention the positive things about the relationship, it's a great time to say something like, if you need space, tell them you need space and tell them why. And you can give them a couple reasons why you need that space, if it feels necessary. If they've done something, again, it's very difficult to do this part without making the other person feel accused. You can't leave the other person feeling like you're accusing them of anything. That's why, drawing it back to your own experience, or how things seemed, or how they felt, how you interpreted them, and acknowledging that as opposed to saying you did X, Y, Z. Acknowledging that it was your own experience and interpretation, and these are the reasons why you might need some time and space from the relationship just to process, and then ending it again on a positive, saying, again, thank you so much for being a good friend. Thank you for hearing me out today. I'm really sorry that I am where I am and that I can't be more for you, or whatever the words need to be. That's just an example, but I'm trying to be as detailed as possible because you're asking. Don't say any of that verbatim. Of course, you're your own person, and it won't fit 100% the way I said it, but I hope that gives you some food for thought on how you might proceed with that relationship for now.
Yeah, that is helpful. That is very helpful, actually. I'm glad that you said not to use it verbatim. I wasn't going to do that anyway, but it's good to have that reminder. Like, I need to use my own words and all that stuff. And sometimes I get stuck on like a script type of phrasing, and I was like, oh, I have to follow this script of the apology, and I don't have to do that. But everything that you said was so helpful, and especially especially about the part that I don't want to accuse him of anything, because I know for a fact that he did not do anything intentionally wrong, or honestly anything wrong at all. I mean, maybe him following me, but that wasn't an intentionally wrong thing. He was never doing anything to hurt me. It was my interpretation of it. And
Right.
I think trying to make that clear to him and asking for just a little bit more time to process, what I'm going through to get to a better place, I think that would be good. And yeah, thank you, seriously, again, because that really does help. I'm glad I called. I do feel a little bad again still about calling so many times, but maybe what I'm going through can help somebody else if they're listening and stuff.
That's right.
Help me feel better.
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. I'm glad you called. I'm wishing you the best. I'm glad that you felt this was a good call. And I hope you find the closure you need with these things in your life, and that you make the progress you're hoping to make, and that everything goes well in these conversations. These are tricky conversations. There's a bunch of good stuff in the chat. I'm sorry to you guys tonight. I was so I was listening so hardcore tonight that I found very few times to plug something you guys said. But there is a bunch of good stuff for you in there, caller, that you could revisit and read through. Encourage you to do that after the call. And we're all wishing you the best on these kinds of conversations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone in the chat. This whole community is amazing. I wish you the best. Thank you for listening to me.
Of course. Take care. Good night. Chat, I truly am sorry. I think I got like 3 or 4 things pulled into the microphone for the callers from you guys tonight. There was a lot of listening tonight. But these chats are always awesome for the callers to review after the episodes. I mean, anytime we have a return caller, they always talk about the chat and how they went back and read through things. So you guys are contributing, whether or not I am able to call out everything that's said. In fact, I've never been able to call out everything that's been said. That would be quite the feat. But this is always an amazing time. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is a beautiful, beautiful way to wind down the night for me. I hope you guys agree. Always enjoy these. We do these 3 times a week on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Central. That's 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And it is always beautiful. Tonight we had as moderators Deanna Krebs, Offcore, and I think that was it tonight. I'm scrolling up to see if there's any other names. I think it was just Deanna and Offcore. I believe that is accurate. Thank you guys so much for keeping the chat clean, keeping us on topic. You guys are rock stars. And yeah, I love everybody here, and I love the moderators. And the moderators are beautiful people that keep us focused on what we're supposed to be talking about. So if you come in here and you say malk or jellyfish or anything like that, it's not that we don't appreciate it. It's just that you're going to get deleted because we're trying to focus on the callers in these streams in particular. So I hope that's clear at this point. We are dealing with less trolls and spammers than we were at the outset of this project. So that's a bit encouraging. Maybe the mods jobs get easier from here on out. I'm hoping so, at least. But thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate you being here. See you guys again on Tuesday, and I hope you have a great beginning of your week. And I will see you guys Tuesday. Good night, everybody.